Everybody, my name is John Bell, and this is Braven Bushcraft, where we'll be discussing bushcraft aspects, camping, survival, that kind of stuff, advice for prepping, that kind of stuff, and gear review. So, in this episode, I'm talking about the long-term hygiene kits. All right, long-term hygiene bag, things to consider for the wilderness. And my focus is not the weekend warrior or camper, family camper, but what happens in, like, scenario of grid down situation where you can't just go and resupply your stock, or you have to try to resupply in the wild, any which way you can. So that's kind of my focus. And what sets my goal apart in this type of aspect in dealing with the situation. Okay, so that's the idea of where I'm coming from. I had a heck of a time trying to get my audio to work with my second camera angle here so I could get a little bit of wider view, but I think I finally got it figured out. Cross your fingers, because it's been frustrating. Anyway, so here's an example. I love kits. I'm a kit freak. I also love reviewing gear, and I've stocked up on a ton of gear in the last year in order to prepare for trying to start this new channel and build this channel out. I had to wait a while for getting a second camera so I could get a wider view, and so eventually I could take it out in the field. Although I'm not going to be focused on doing field work right now, but I do want to have something where I can have a little bit of a wider angle just to show some stuff like my kit. So here's one example of a kit I made for the basis of long-term survival. Now, of course, this is just general information. It's situation specific to every person and every person's needs, every person's likes. And not everyone's going to have the same needs. So this is just a general overview to give an idea of different things to consider and keep in mind for a longer term hygiene kit, like I've tried to put together here. And I hope it helps. Okay, so let's see if we can get my mic out of the camera there a little bit. Anyway, so in the kit, this is a snug pack bag, all right, that I got. Unfortunately, they discontinued this bag. And one of my pet peeves in watching gear review stuff is seeing something that I'm like, that's cool, I want to buy it, and it's not available anymore. So I do apologize for that. I have not found anything to replace this that I like as much as this. You can find it online still, but it's very difficult. It took me a long time to try to find another one of these. A buddy of mine bought me this for Christmas years ago. We've got like a bushcraft theme where we only give each other bushcraft gear stuff for Christmas ideas. I love this because it's a full bag, but it also crushes down flat if it was emptier. So you can have less in it, or you can have it more built out and it crushes down. So that's one thing I love about it. Another thing that was amazing about this kit, I put some 550 cord ties on the end just to help open it a little easier. Another thing that was really cool about this kit is when you open it, it has this little hook at the top. So the idea is you can hang it from a tree or something like that to use it in the field, which I think is nice. Doesn't mean I'll always use it that way, but I love the idea of having options. It also comes with this little mirror that velcros on right here. So you have not only a hanging kind of toiletry hygiene bag in the field, but you even have a little mirror just to, check yourself, or if you're going to shave, or, something like. There's always times you need a little mirror in the field, even for survival situations. And speaking of that, if you have a mirror in the field, this one's not super shiny because it has a protective film over it, which I'm going to leave. But if you see an object like a plane that you want to signal with a mirror, the proper way to do that is you make a V with your fingers and you look with your eye through that V. If you do that, then you see that vehicle, say an airplane, in your line of sight. Then you take your mirror behind it, all right, and you signal it up and down, catching the ray of the sun. If you can see that light reflecting back up and down your fingers, then you know you're sending that signal to the right spot, the right location. Just a little tip. So anyway, yeah, the hanging hygiene bag, little mirror, which is really nice. I like that. Like I said, won't always use it for that kind of way, but I love having options, you know. Okay, so as we open up the kit, a few things to get into. Number one, this is what I use for toothpaste. This is a tin I got from a great little bushcraft company called Bigfoot Bushcraft. So you can see that on there. And they have little fire starter kits. In fact, I think I had some sitting next to me on my very cluttered desk. They had little fire starter kits that I like. And there's all kinds you can find online of little fire aids that are like little instant tinder sources that are very easy to light when starting fire. Of course, I don't have it on me right now. So, but they make these little ones that are nice that come in these tin cans. I really like them. In fact, there should be another one maybe in here. We'll get to that. So, but this one I use because it was the perfect size for what I'm using for toothpaste. And what I'm using for toothpaste is this product right here, okay? This is called My Magic Mud, all right? See if I can get a good angle on that in the camera at all. Let's see if I bend this up and get the light better. So it's called My Magic Mud, all right? Now, what's great about the My Magic Mud is that it's basically natural materials, and it's basically activated charcoal. All right, it's just charcoal. Charcoal, it's been heated above 120 something degrees, I think, is what makes it activated. But nonetheless, it's charcoal. Now, this is specifically charcoal ground from husks of a coconut. All right, which is supposed to be really good for this kind of effect, but in a pinch, you can use any charcoal out there as long as you're not using toxic materials, right? Most woods and stuff like that, as long as they're not green wood that's treated or something, but natural woods, right? You can use charcoal and you can break that down into a powder, and then you can use that as a very effective toothpaste, okay? So you got to be careful with this stuff. You don't want to breathe on it because it flies everywhere, all right? But you can see when I open it, it's just black charcoal powder. And what you do is you just take your toothbrush and you just dip it. It doesn't take much either. I mean, I take like just the tip end of the bristles and just dab it in there. You put some water in your mouth and you brush up with that. It does a great job. If you had some baking soda, that's also something good to brush teeth with. People did it for years before we had modern toothpaste. But charcoal does a fantastic job. Charcoal is very known for cleaning out bacteria and odor and stuff like that. It's very porous in the way that it does that. So since I did that, let me pull out my little toothbrush next. This is a little toothbrush I've got right here. I love this little joker. It's a bamboo toothbrush. Let's see if I can get it close to the screen so you can see the name and all that kind of stuff. This is I just got this on Amazon. It's a bamboo BPA free, which is an estrogen mimicker. Says it's organic, US organic certified. But since we're in bushcraft, what's great about this is it's just a simple little toothbrush, not too much to it, but it's on a little bamboo stick, which is nice because in bushcraft, you're always thinking of trying to be connected to natural materials as opposed to like plastics. All right, plastics, no bueno, no cool. So as much as you can avoid them, sometimes you can't. But so it's just nice having a natural wood fiber toothbrush in this bamboo, and it has the reason the bristles are black here in the end is because they are coated in charcoal again to be microbial. All right. And what's neat about these little ones too, you can see there's two little leaves right here. They have up to 4. So the idea is If you have a family, they're already marked 1 leaf, 2 leaf, 3 leaf, 4 leaves. So people at a glance can know, oh, this is my toothbrush. You know what I mean? Kind of idea. Otherwise, you can always mark it yourself, especially on the back side. You just take something hot and you can write your name in there and brand it in. But anyway, like I said, I just take the very tip of the brush and dab it in that. A little bit goes a long way. Brush teeth and just have some water to rinse out your toothbrush. Try and let it air dry as much as you can, which is nice. And then boom, you have a field expedient toothbrush. And the toothbrush, as long as you take care of it, will last a very long time. Now, I will recommend, I have what I call a 3-tier system. All right. The 3-tier system is based on different levels of preparedness or items. One of the rules for that is hardware over software. We've heard this applied to computers and things like that. I take the same thing and apply it to bushcraft. Hardware over software. What that means is you want materials that are going to last versus materials like most things today that are only made for temporary one-time or not one-time, but temporary use. So like, I'll give you another example. Modern tents are all made of nylon, right? Well, that's great. And that's great for the weekend camper, weekend warrior. But if you had to live out of that long term, that's not going to last very long. Even in the sunlight, it's going to destroy it. All right. So this just not made for that. So other materials like canvas, okay, or oilcloth, these are things that have been proven by the frontiers people back in the day, by old cowboys, by the Civil War. These are things that last forever if you take care of them. All right. Right here, I've got a big piece of oilcloth, all right, that I use as a makeshift tent. All right. It's slightly heavier than some tents because it's a natural material, but it'll also is much stronger and will last much longer if you take care of it. All right. So that's an example of hardware over software. Now, also have a 3-tier system, as I said. A 3-tier system. Let me give you an example of that. What I can carry on my person would be like tier 1. Okay. What I could carry in a backpack might be tier 2. What I could carry in a vehicle would be tier 3. Now you can apply that. You can do that in reverse. You can apply that to different situations. Like, again, what I carry in a backpack could be tier 1. What I carry, in a vehicle could be tier 2. And what I can have at a whole base camp or house could be tier 3, or vice versa. You could say, oh, because I've got more and better equipment at home, that could be tier 1. You get the idea. You can break it up any way you want, but I love focusing on the tier system. It helps in a lot of ways when it comes to survivalism. So hardware over software, again, that's focusing on what's long-term and what's going to last. See, a decent toothbrush, if you take care of it, and me having a simple tin that I can always replenish with charcoal, that's a hardware system versus software. Okay. And I like the fact that it's a natural wood material as opposed to plastic toothbrush. All right. So, but you get the idea. Now, that said, toothbrushes are very difficult to try to recreate in nature. Charcoal is not. Toothbrushes are. Therefore, it would behoove you to stock up on a box of toothbrushes for you and your family. They don't cost a whole lot. It's easy to stock up on, and then you always have them on hand. All right. So that would be something to stock up on. Okay. A few items you really want to just stock up on. We don't have another choice. But again, they're cheap. You can get a box of them. Doesn't cost a lot, and they can last a very, very long time, especially if you take care of them. So that covers brushing teeth. Now, along those lines, let's see if I can try to find. Along those same lines, I'm looking for my tooth floss. I don't see it readily on hand. Here we go. So here's a little thing of just simple dental floss. Okay. Now, dental floss is fantastic because not only can it be used to floss teeth with, but in an emergency, you can actually sew with it. It's like you could sew a wound back together with it. So be something very, important to have with you. This is something else that's very difficult to get in nature. So again, something cheap you want to stock up on, get a box of dental floss. Very important for, healthy hygiene of your mouth in the wilderness. Now, if you didn't have dental floss, there are plant fibers that you can break apart, let them dry in the sun, and it essentially can potentially make dental floss. You need to make sure it's not a toxic style plant and that you can get the fibers to the right, size that you need. But it could work in a pinch. However, so much easier just to have some dental floss. So get a box of them, and they last a long time. Make it last as long as you can. Don't just throw it away when you use it if you can reuse it without it getting too, cruddy, kind of thing. But that's something else to keep in mind. All right. I love using had this out on my table, these little dental picks, but this is going to last a whole lot longer in a survival situation than these, which run out really quickly. So, but you get the idea. All right, moving along. Okay. Now, I know I just made the big spiel and I don't like plastics, but this is a plastic case because it just works fantastic. But this is a case where I keep a bar of soap. Now, the soap I'm using is this, okay? It's pine tar soap, okay? And this one is Grandpa's 1878 Wonders Pine Tar Soap, okay? Now, I'll tell you right off the start, this is a natural soap, which is one thing I like about it. When you go to stores and you look at the ingredients on your products, whether it's laundry detergent, whether it's shampoo, conditioner, or your soaps, when they have a laundry list of ingredients you can't pronounce, it's this long, you shouldn't be putting that in your body. All right. It's not healthy. A lot of times you can do your own research and look stuff up, but you'll find that these are not chemicals. If you can't pronounce it, I don't want to put it in my body. All right. This is a natural pine tar soap. Now, some people don't like these because if you smell it, it has a very musky odor. Okay. And that turns a lot of people off. Some friends of mine, I try to get them to use this and they stop using it because they don't like this musky smell. However, it's important to point out when you bathe with this and lather it up, once you rinse off, that smell's gone. Like you can't smell anything except freshness. You don't smell the muskiness of the bar soap. Okay. I've come to like the muskiness smell over time, but a lot of things in bushcraft do take a little bit getting used to because we're so used to modern conveniences and everything smelling so nice and pristine. There is a little bit of that you kind of got to step back from when it comes to bushcraft on multiple levels. All right. Like, for example, I use a composting toilet. A lot of Americans, when you try to introduce them to a composting toilet, they don't like it right away because they're used to having the quick flush and it's all over and done with. All right. I love the composting toilets for a number of reasons. I don't like fooling with sewage and plumbing and sewage. Composting toilets, once you get used to it, it fixes a lot of that stuff and you don't have to worry about it. And I love that aspect of it. So anyway, the pine tar soap. Now, another thing about the pine tar soap that's really interesting, it makes a great lather. It's good for shampoo. It's good for soap. It's even good for shaving. It makes a good lather for shaving. When I use this up and use chips of it, I use that for a lather that I use on my brush to then, use on my face if I'm going to shave. Okay. So it's a all-in-one natural bar of soap that can do everything. Okay. So that's one thing I really like about it. And like I said, it's all natural. It's been around for generations and they're cheap. They're about $5 a piece. So again, this is the kind of thing you would want to stock up on and have a big box of these things just ready to go. Now, you can learn to make soaps in nature. They're not probably going to be as good as what you could get out of a bar of soap like this. But in emergency, you do have things that will work in a pinch. There's a lot of videos online for that. Just do some research. You can learn to make your own soaps relatively easy with a little bit of skill and training. It's not overly complicated. It does take a little bit of work and a little bit of knowledge, but it's not that difficult. And then there's also field expedient ways you can form soaps relatively quickly if you needed to. And like I said, there's plenty of videos on that already. Go look those up. But if not, have, stock up on soap. And I recommend natural soap, okay? Especially in bushcraft, we want to try to stick with everything as natural as much as possible that we can, okay? So going off from that, I'm going to go here. I have Art of Shaving little travel, basically badger hair brush. And that's just for being able to lather up, whether it's my face or my head if I'm going to shave, okay? So you get the idea with that. I don't think that needs a lot of explanation. Now, it's called badger brush because it's made out of badger brush hair, okay? So let's see if we can line these up. So that's something to consider. You can make things out of natural hair in the wilderness if you had to. But again, it's nice having a little travel badger brush, okay? So love that little joker. Okay, since we're on that topic, here is my razor. Now, this is really important. And again, like I just mentioned, when it comes to bushcraft, sometimes you need to take a step back from some of the things we're kind of spoiled with in modern conveniences. This is my razor. This razor, I've got a little leather sheath over it just to protect it. This is the old, like your grandparents would have used, safety razor, okay? And what that means is you just unscrew this handle, you open it up, and it just has a razor blade, okay? It just has a standard razor blade. You put that razor blade in the top head, put it on this piece, you screw it in, and it bends that razor blade down to an angle for shaving, okay? It just puts a slight bend in it, and it puts it at an angle for you to be able to shave with it. This is called the safety razor. This is a very good razor, and it does a very good job shaving. Now, it's not perfect, and it's not as perfect as the modern razors that have like 4 or 5, and I mean, every year they're putting more blades on those things. Soon it'll be like 50 blades on one razor, but those are super expensive. This can get the same job done, and it is not that expensive. Once you buy a decent quality little safety razor, which is about $100 or so, then you just buy little individual razors to put in it, and it lasts for the rest of your life as long as you don't lose it or break it. And it's made of steel, so you're not going to more than likely damage it that easily. So trying to see, somewhere in here I have a little, in my bag, I'm supposed to have a thing of razors. Here we go. So here's a little pack of Gillette razor blades that I have to go in my little safety razor. Now, these jokers last a very long time, and there's actually a way to strop them to even resharpen them, kind of thing. That's takes kind of a little bit more of another skill level. It's just easy. These things don't cost a lot. Plus, you can buy knockoff brands that work fine. You can buy a whole box of these razors, and this can last you the rest of your life. I mean, so, and it doesn't take up a lot of space, and it does a very effective job. In fact, even in a non-bushcraft situation, this is a whole lot cheaper than spending all these plastic razors that people use all the time. Those things are very expensive and add up. I'd rather buy one quality, little piece of equipment and have this joker work, and it's a whole lot cheaper. Now, every once in a while, you might nick yourself with this. It takes practice and all that kind of thing, but it's a lot. It's better than just a straight razor, which can be more dangerous. All right. That's why this is called the safety razor. It's what replaced the straight razor. All right. But fantastic piece of kit. All right. And great. In fact, since I brought that up, the next little piece of gear I'll go to is I actually have here, little case, a straight razor. Okay. This is Dovo stainless steel straight razor from Solinger, Germany. And if you know anything about razors, Dovo and Solinger, Germany make some of the best in the world. All right. They're considered one of the top brands for straight razors as well as just shaving equipment. All right. So you have to be very, very careful with a straight razor because it's just a straight blade, right? But this is what our great grandparents and beyond used to use for shaving their face, their hair, anything. But it can be dangerous because it is just a straight blade. It takes some skill, and you probably will nick yourself a little bit more using this. However, if I ever ran out of blades for my safety blade, then I have another tool to go to. So this would be an example of, here's a tier 1 tool because it's what I use every day. And here's a tier 2 tool. Whereas if I lost what I use every day, I have a backup system that can last, that I can resharpen and can last the rest of my life in this one single tool. If for some reason I ran out of or couldn't get any more of the razor blades for the safety razor. So again, that's an example of the tier 1, tier 2 system. Okay. So here's my safety razor. I mean, this is my straight edge razor blade, and then my safety razor. Okay. And you see why this one was called the safety razor. This one in history replaced this one. This one was a lot more dangerous and took more skill, and they replaced it with this one. And plus, they can make more money selling individual razors, kind of like they do today, but it's at an astronomical price. It really is. So these two items are fantastic, and take care of them. They will last forever, especially this one. Okay. So that's just another example of longer term. Again, the idea here is I need things that are harder to replace. Speaking of replacing, a little word on soap real quick. A lot of times we're so used to having soap on demand, just a little paper towel, that we're just used to scrubbing the soap on us. All right. That's a terrible waste of soap. All right. If you have to preserve your soap, you don't just rub it on your skin, your body. You want to use a washcloth, not paper towel, but washcloth, and you want to rub the soap on that washcloth. Then you lather that up and you use that to clean your body with. That way you essentially preserve your soap and make it last much longer. Another very important tip. All right. But anyway, you get the idea. The idea is items that I have to replace, stock up on. Items that I can replace in the field or last forever. That's where we want to try to stick with. I have this nice little canvas bag because I keep this in it, which is what we're going to talk about next. This is Thai salt stick. All right. Salt crystal. It's called. All right. This is nothing more than a aluminum salt stick. Okay. This has been used for centuries. I think they used it in Egypt. What's amazing about this is it's a natural deodorant. Okay. Whereas normal deodorant sticks and things like that, they're not going to last out in the field. I went to Italy one year and I forgot my deodorant. And when I packed up to go, and I was freaking out once I got there. But then I realized I had brought one of these as a backup because, again, my tier 1, tier 2 system, this was my backup for that system. I happened to have one of these. Well, having this, I didn't need to buy a deodorant stick. I used this one, okay? And after an entire year of using it, that's what it looked like after a year. But look at that. One deodorant stick that cost me about $5, maybe $6 now, lasted me an entire year, and it's still usable. Still usable. But look at that, an entire year just on this one thing. It's still, like I said, still usable. I don't know if I could quite get 2 years out of that, but I might be able to get 2 years out of that. But again, this is the kind of thing you want to buy and stock up on. It's cheap, and have them on demand and have a box full of them for you and your family. Another neat thing about this is if you did another concept you want to keep in mind in bushcraft is you want things to be able to perform double duty, double skills, right? To lessen the amount of weight that you're going to be carrying with stuff. So if you do nick yourself shaving, this, you just run a little bit of water on it and you put it on there, it stops the bleeding. All right. It acts as an aluminum stick and it'll stop the bleeding. So that's another little neat trick. You get a little cut, you can use it to wet it, rub it on there. It'll help stop the bleeding. Because it is salt, it'll help also disinfect that area, all right, from bacteria. And when you live in the wilds, in the wilderness, little cuts and bacteria can become septic. You can get a little bitty cut on your finger and it can lead to a blood infection and you can die. It's not like the normal world we're so used to living in. Like I said, that's where you got to learn to take a step back in some of the modern conveniences. When you get little cuts, you need to take them much more serious and you need to treat them right away. Well, you get a little cut, you can stop the bleeding with this, and the salt's going to act as a barrier for bacteria. Then you want to cover that up with something, okay? Pine pitch or something like that, if you don't just have Band-Aids, right? But anyway, now, also, like I said with this, like I also said already, you need when it comes to bushcraft stuff, you need to take a step back as far as modern conveniences, where we are so spoiled with one-time use items and quick on demand. You do something in 2 seconds and you're ready to move on. When it comes to bushcraft and especially like field kits like this, you've got to learn to take a step back from that. Things take a little bit more time and a little bit more elbow grease. You got to learn to be patient to accept that. And not only that, but the whole state of mind when you're in bushcraft situation is you want to get to a state where you slow yourself down more so than we're used to on a day-to-day basis. Because you can do something right 1,000 times, but you do something one time wrong and you can end up cutting yourself, hurting yourself, and needing a hospital. And when you're in a survival situation or in a bushcraft situation, there might not be any way to get to a hospital. So these are things you've got to consider. You've got to think about that. If you're chopping something and you start getting tired, well, it's time to stop. You don't just keep doing it, because if there's an accident, you might not be able to get help. Well, taking that same concept with, taking a step back from conveniences, using this salt stick for deodorant. It's not just like, oh, I wipe it on, 2-3 times and I'm done. It doesn't work that way. It takes a little bit more effort and elbow grease. You're going to want to run it under some water or put some water on it. Then you want to rub it in, but you want to rub it in kind of vigorously for a minute. Re-wet it, do it again. You want to get it in there good. You want to do it for a few minutes, all right? And come the end of the day, usually like 4 o'clock or something, you might need to do it again and reapply, all right? Using this one, I did it twice a day for a year, twice a day, once in the morning before I went to my classes, and once when I got home from school in the afternoon, all right, or about 4 o'clock. So that's something to consider. But having long-term field expedient deodorant is a game changer. Believe me, you don't want to be around a bunch of stinky people, smelly people. Another thing about this is hunting. Animals can smell you. A lot of times they say before they even see you or hear you. Okay. So that said, Well, if you're trying to hunt, that's a huge thing. A lot of times hunters use this because it has no odor, all right? It has no odor. So, so that's great. If you can help control your own body odor when you're trying to put food on the table for you or your family, that's a game changer. Okay. So again, makes this very important. So even if you didn't use it every day, you certainly want to use it before hunting. Okay. So that's another big important thing with this. And like I said, where it's a survival situation. Now they do make a spray bottle version of this, all right, as well. I use this a lot too, just because it's so simple, just to spray on a few times. You got to apply it a little more because you're not doing as vigorously as the other one, or just to touch up every now and then, freshen up. It's good. The spray bottle. This is not field expedient kind of thing that you'd want to carry in a backpack. This is okay, and will last a very long time. But like I said, we'll take a little bit of elbow grease. Oh, here, I found what I was looking for earlier from the Bigfoot Bushcraft company I was talking about that makes these neat little tins. I love tins. All right, you open it up. They have these little fire starters, okay? It's just paraffin wax mixed in some cotton. Very, you find these all the time with some petroleum jelly. There's hundreds of different versions of this online, but in an emergency situation, you would rough this up to get the fibers out, and then you would light it with a ferrocerium rod, which also I carry in my kit at all times. All right, but you just strike with a ferrocerium rod. All right. And I'm not going to do it right now because these things actually come with a protective coating material. But you rough it up to get the fibers out. You take your ferrocerium rod and you strike it, and then you start a fire. And it's very important to have this is a tinder source. It's very important to have a tinder source like this because there are times where weather's bad or you don't have a lot of time and you need a field expedient way to hurry up and get a fire going. Otherwise, I would save these and use natural materials. One thing I like to do in the woods is I keep a bag with me, and anytime I come across natural materials that are dry and make a good tinder source, I grab them and wrap them in that bag and keep it in my pocket. So when the time comes, I have that filled and I can pull it out, use my striker, and start a fire. It's easy peasy. Now, but there are times where the weather could be bad. It could be difficult. The ground could be cold and it could be wet, rainy. You could be getting cold and even close to hypothermic where you're losing dexterity in your fingers. It becomes a lot harder to think and do things like that, even simple activities. So having something that can be an instant tinder source is a lifesaver. So it's definitely worth having in your pack. All right. So, and this was a tin that came with those, and I just repurposed it for my charcoal toothpaste. Back on the ferrocerium rod. All right. You will see this in bushcraft. This is a #1 mainstay in bushcraft. Okay. Just like a good quality knife, especially a Scandinavian style utility bushcraft knife with a single bevel edge. But anyway, I'll do other shows on that later. The ferrocerium rod is amazing because if you have a regular lighter, and I'm all for people having lighters and bringing them in the field, they're great. They make an instant light source. You can use it for instant fire. It's great, but you don't want to rely on it. That goes back to the tier 3 system. This would be a tier 1 tool, all right? A tier 2 tool would be like flint and steel, where you actually have a piece of flint and hardened steel and you strike it to make a fire. Which is what our grandparents used to do to light fires because they didn't have this fancy ferrocerium rod stuff. Or in tier 3 would be, hey, you just have like a Bic lighter, okay? And lighters are great, or matches. I'd put matches along with that category. The problem is lighters and matches run out. What do you use when those run out? Then you're hung out. That's why the flint and steel lasts forever if you take care of it, and the ferrocerium rod does not last forever, but it lasts a very long time, especially if you take care of it. This one tool can maybe start close to 100,000 fires, something in that degree. It might not be quite that many, but you get an idea. It gives you a lot. And now, let me give you another piece of advice about this, especially for newbies when it comes to using a ferrocerium rod. I see people all the time, even in survival shows like Alone. They're getting better quality people now, but when the shows first used to run, people didn't know what they were doing. And a lot of times you'll see people chopping at the ferrocerium rod. Trying to get colors right since it's black. They'll chop at it like you're taking an axe trying to cut wood. You never want to do that. What you want to do is you place your rod, you place the striker, as they call it. It's just a piece of steel with a 90-degree edge. Okay, you place that against the ferrocerium rod, and at an angle where you're putting a little bit of pressure down on a consistent angle, almost at like a 45 or something like that. You just push with the same degree of weight all the way down the rod evenly. All right, evenly. And if you do that right, you're going to get the sparks you need. It might take 2-3 times, and then you should be good. You don't want to strike it forever, and you don't want to hack at it. You don't want to create grooves of pitting in this thing. You want straight lines, and as it wears over time, you want it to wear evenly down the path, the line of this rod. You don't want grooves in it. You don't want holes in it, pits in it. You just want straight lines. Something very, very important to point out. All right, but you have to have these in bushcraft and survival. You can't find these in nature, but they're one of the best things you could ever have in nature, aside from a good knife. So they don't cost a whole lot. Stock up on them, buy a box of them, and always have them on hand. All right. Another thing that's important about this one, notice how this one has a lanyard hole drilled through it, right? That's huge, because you see this little joker is kind of small and it's black and it's very easy to disappear. Okay. Imagine in the woods how easy that is. So I have a rule I make for myself. I try to get these. I get, first of all, I get bigger ones. This is just a backup one, but I get bigger ones that are about this long and thick, almost half an inch thick. All right, at least. And I try to get them with the holes in it like this, because in an emergency, I'm gonna make a lanyard and keep this around my neck, so that this joker, which is so important to my survival, stays on me at all times. All right. And when I take it off my neck to use it, I'm going to take that same lanyard and I'm going to wrap it around my wrist when I use it. So I can even let go of it and it's still going to be connected to my wrist. When I use it, I can drop it to do whatever. The idea is I'm never setting this thing down. It's either on my wrist, or when I'm done, I put it right back on my neck. And that way you don't lose it in the field. It's one of the most important survival items you can ever have. All right. So like I said, you can't find it in nature. Now, this would be my tier 1 because I use it all the time. My tier 3 would be a lighter or matches, but they run out. So you don't want to rely on them. They're nice to have, but you don't want to rely on them. My tier 2, as I said, is flint and steel. Flint and steel's, I don't have a flint and steel kit with me, but it's the old time stuff our grandparents used to use. And you take a metal carbon steel that's hardened, all right, piece of steel, and you take a flint striker as a hard rock, and you strike that flint, okay? And you hold a little tinder source in your hand, like some cotton fiber or char cloth, kind of stuff like that, and you use that to create a spark. Carbon atoms you can see will fly off of there in different angles, and you want to catch that and use that to create a small spark, and you use that then to create what's called a bird's nest tinder bundle, and you use that to fluff out into a flame and use that to start your fire. A little more complicated. Now, there's other methods like bow drills and things like that, but flint and steel is one of the most common back in the day. Our grandparents, when they cooked in the kitchen, when they made fires to stay warm, they always used flint and steel. And it worked for them. It will work for us. It takes a little bit of skill and practice to understand how to use. but it will last forever as long as you take care of it. And you can potentially find it in nature. You can find sources of carbon steel, but again, these are so important. These are things you kind of want to stock up on and have on hand and demand. And I'll do other shows on that kind of stuff later as far as flint and steel. Okay, moving on. Very important in my little hygiene kit. This is a little, I have most of my stuff out of here. This is a little, basically a little manicure kit. All right. Also, this is a Dovo one that I got with my, razors and all. But this is just a little manicure kit. It has nail clippers. Usually I keep has a file in here, tweezers, and the little scissors that are bent at an angle on the end for doing just manicure work. Okay. I can't tell you how absolutely important that is in a survival situation or nature. You're going to need all of this. I had to cut my fingernails today. They get long so fast. But you always want a way to be able to cut and trim your nails properly, get a piece of hanging skin or something like that. Tweezers. I mean, there's a million uses for tweezers in emergency situations, even removing ticks. So you always want to have that on hand. You get a splinter, indefinitely, it's going to happen at some point. You're always going to need things like that. Having a little nail file in here, very, very helpful. Even the little scissors for manicuring and stuff like that, very, very important. So I highly recommend that. And another thing, fingernail clippers, they're essential. And that's not something you can find in nature. But again, they're cheap and you can stock up on a whole bunch of them. And you never want to be without them. Things that are really important items like nail clippers, like ferrocerium rods, they're so important. You want to have multiple ones of them. Don't just rely on having one or two. I keep them in everything. In fact, that's why even in my hygiene bag, I've got a ferrocerium rod fire starter and some and some extra tinder. All right. Even though that's not necessarily to a hygiene kit, I'm just going to throw it in there because it's a backup. And I know I always have a backup to go to right there. So same thing with nail clippers. They take up no space. They're cheap. You absolutely need them. They're easy to lose. You can't find them in nature. So go stock up on them. All right. Also in hygiene, very important to have a comb, and these are specifically hair trimming scissors. All right. Just like your barber uses in the shop. Just simple hair trimming scissors. Okay. That's very important. All right. There's going to be times your hair grows out long. You're going to want to trim it. I've got this one at different angles because I can use the small end to get my mustache, or if I want to trim my beard, it makes it a whole lot easier with the smaller angle end than the bigger angle end to reach those areas and trim those up. Okay. Also, the smaller scissors works great for that as well. But you want to have a way that you can groom hair and cut hair. All right. If my hair grows out real long, I have to. If my hair grows out real long, I just lost my camera there for a second. If my hair grows out real long, I have to cut it back and trim it back with this before I could end up, trying to shave it down like I like to keep it with my safety razor or even with the straight razor. Okay. So just more grooming options, and well, you take care of them. A good pair of stainless steel, scissors will last a long time. Now, to preserve these, I won't use them for anything except cutting hair. This is not utility scissors. I use my knife for something like that or other heavier duty scissors. This will just be for cutting hair. All you need to do is strop it and they'll stay sharp. And what I mean by stropping is you use a leather, out of a leather belt, and you just and go back and forth on the belt for stropping. Okay. And my camera's cutting out again. Hopefully that doesn't continue. Another really important thing to have in a long-term kit, this is a sewing kit. All right. I can't tell you, this is actually a military issue sewing kit that we were given in basic training or in the military. You always want to have a way to be able to repair your clothing gear. This has extra buttons and and some little pins and stuff like that. I've got some extra little scissors in here, thread. I keep needles, and you know, not just sewing clothes. You might have a wound that you've got to sew, and so you would take that needle, put it over a fire like a lighter to purify it, sterilize it, and using that dental floss. If you didn't have suture kits, which I have suture kits in my first aid, but you can close that wound back up, which can be very important in the wilderness, right? So it does double duty. You can use it for skin, but you can also use this for clothing. You get the idea. But having a way to repair your gear in the wild is super, super important. I even have a heavier duty canvas needle and thread that I use for my canvas material and stuff like that for being able to repair. You have to have a way to be able to make repairs, patches, and that kind of stuff. All right. So that's something else that's goober important in the field. Again, when I talk about taking a step back in life from our modern conveniences, being able to make your own repairs on the fly in the wilderness can be a major necessity. All right. Let's see what else I got in here. Okay, chapstick. All right. This is going to segue into the next thing I want to talk about. I got a little Bigfoot thing. I got the Bigfoot conference. Anyway, a friend of mine at a table next to me gave me that. Anyway, so chapstick. Okay, we all know the importance of chapstick. Again, it's cheap. So go buy a whole bunch of it, throw it in a box, and have it on hand. Okay. It doesn't require a big box to have enough of these to last for years. Okay. They do melt if it gets too hot. So that's something to consider. I like stacking them upwards. So if they melt, it's not melting all out or down or that kind of stuff, if possible. Not always possible. Now, this would be a tier 1 because this is the kind of thing I'll put in my pocket and use every day. And I do use this stuff every day. What happens if you do run out of this or don't have this? Well, you can make field expedient formulas for chapstick, just like you can with soap. It does take a little effort and some raw materials and a little bit of learning and skill, know how to do it, but it's very doable. All right. That brings me to my next point. This is the same thing in a tin. I love tins. Okay. Bushcraft and tins go together. This is Burt's Bees hand swab. Okay. Just a different version of their chapstick. So it's almost like a hand lotion or face lotion. All right. Also, just like chapstick, that's very, very important in the field, especially if you're washing your hands often. They can get dried out. You want a way to be able to replenish, to hydrate your face, your hands, maybe your feet, elbows, knees, that kind of stuff can be very important. Now, this is easy because I can just go buy it and it works. Okay. And it's natural. I'm not saying it's 100% natural, but you get the idea. But what's neat about this, and especially why I love the tin, is I can replenish this and make my own. So there are ways, there are recipes in the field where I can use tins like this to make chapstick, to make lotions, to make soaps, to make conditioner for my gear, my equipment, like for wood on an axe handle, for the metal to keep it from rusting on an axe and on the axe head itself, or to condition leather to make it water resistant, or to keep it conditioned so it doesn't dry out and get cracky. So I carry tins that do all of that. There's an ancient metalworking, I'm escaping the word, blacksmithing tool. It's a formula that's one tin with one formula that will condition all my wood, that will condition all my metal and make it rust resistant, and will condition my leather all at the same time from one ingredient, one source that I make myself. All right. So that's super, super important. And I can I can restock it myself in the field with some basic raw things in the field. So that's important. I can do the same thing where I make a swab like this, a balm or swab, where it can be a lotion that acts as a chapstick, that acts as a face lotion, a hand lotion, um, something I can use on my body as a conditioner for my skin. I can use another one that does almost the same thing, except it has extra ingredients in it to where it makes it act as an antiseptic. So if I get a cut, I want to put that antiseptic on it. All right. And so it's just another lotion, just has more in it where it acts as an anti microbe. All right. And becomes an antiseptic. Now I've got a tin where I have an antiseptic where I can treat something. Same thing. You want to come up with a tin that has a natural thing that you built or created recipe for a bug bomb, for insects, mosquitoes, okay, those kind of things. Those things can be, hella miserable in the wild. All right. I've been attacked by literally clouds that you can't see through of these things. And I mean, it could almost be life threatening. All right. Now, that's another example of where I talk about hardware over software. Lotions, repellents would be software, an example of software. Hardware is I have bug netting. All right. I always carry bug netting. I always on my pockets have bug netting for my head. In my pack, I've got bug netting that's a jacket for my whole upper body and head. In my pack, I've got bug netting that goes over an entire bed or my campsite where I'm going to sleep, so that I've got a barrier. All right. That's hardware over software. You can find that in the wild. They don't cost a lot. So stop on them and always have them on hand for you and your family. It can be, losing my camera again. What's going on here? It can be miserable not having, bug netting. But on the software side, it is good to have a little balm you keep with you that you can add. There's always going to be times you need a little extra help, even getting in and out of stuff, where you can put, some bug balm on you. And a lot of bug balm you buy today, or suntan lotions, for example, it's another swab you can make. A lot of the ones you buy in stores today can have chemicals that are not healthy for the skin. All right. We use stuff in the military that could like melt plastics. That's not really something you want to put on your skin. You know what I'm saying? So you want to be very careful about lotions, makeups, soaps, and things like that you put on your skin. You want to stick to natural materials as much as possible. All right. So that's why I'm advocating for having you create a lotion that'll be hydrating to your skin, for your gear. That's natural. That a bug bomb that you make yourself, what's in it, it's natural. Those kind of things. An antiseptic, what's in it, it's natural. Okay. But those are just a few things I would also keep in my hygiene kit and in other kits in my bag. That would be kind of like a little first aid thing. So I know in my kit, I'm going to have soaps. I'm going to have conditioners. I'm going to have insect repellent. I'm going to have antiseptic. I'm going to have, a little bit of first aid also in my hygiene kit. Very important things to consider. Very important. And all those and little reusable tins. I love tins. In bushcraft, you love natural material like the wood, tins, leathers, those kind of things, as much as you can use those over, normal synthetic materials, So that gives you another idea. So right there, already you have a means of oral hygiene to be able to brush your teeth and to recreate toothpaste in the field. You have a way to have a long-term field expedient deodorant, right? You have a way to have long-term soaps and to be able to create more soaps, lotions, antiseptics, bug bombs, as we've covered. We've got razor material that will last you most of your life. You could give it away to your grandkids. Um, so these are all very important necessities. The ferrocerium rod is a fire starter. You want one of those in every piece of kit you got, ideally. They're so important. Now, going on, there's a zipper at the bottom of this, and I keep two main things in here. One is this. This is a little first aid kit, all right? And this is just simple stuff like antiseptics, Band-Aids, okay? In different sizes. It has some gauze pads, all right? I really like, too, the Quick Clot gauze, if you don't know what that is. They used to come out with the Quick Clot granules. You don't want to use that. It guts up wounds real bad. But they have an impregnated gauze now that's Quick Clot. It will stop bleeding. Now, for little cuts, no big deal. Use regular gauze. But for bigger cuts and ones that it's difficult to control the bleeding, they make these gauzes impregnated with Quick Clot or something. It might use another name, but you get the idea. And with that, it helps to stop the bleeding. Those are also very important to have in your kit. But I just have a little simple first aid thing in here. Like I said, antiseptic as well. You always want that. Also, you have in here little butterfly stitches. You can have a cut that might need to be sewn kind of thing, but you don't have time or something like that. You can put butterfly stitches or tabs over it, which is really nice. Having some extra needles or something like that, very important kind of things to consider as far as stuff like that. Another thing that's great, I don't have in here, but I have it in my other kit like this that I use every day in my shaving bag, is the liquid skin. You've heard of the liquid skin. It comes in a little tube, and you unscrew it. It has a little brush on the end, and you can put it on cuts, open cuts. So you get little scratches like that. It has a little antiseptic in it. That stuff is fantastic. You should have that in your bag all the time anyway. Now, that was developed from super glue that was created for Special Forces soldiers in the field trying to repair cuts and things like that, okay? That's just a more modern version of that, okay? Now, in a field expedient version, what a lot of bushcrafters will use is you can use pine resin as a form of has some antiseptic qualities, and you can use that as a field expedient way to cover wounds. All right, it is a little sticky, especially at first. It'd be good to cover it with something to help keep it clean, and so it's not sticking to everything. But you can, it's a little clumpy, but you can use that as an antiseptic and wound cover in a emergency in a field expedient situation. In fact, I would carry another tin just with pine resin or pine pitch in it that I can use for all sorts of different things when I need to. You just heat it up a little bit, even with a little lighter, and you can use that for a whole number of things in the field, so that are important. So I have another tin just for that, so that you reuse and reheat. I'd have another tin with a small hole poked in it that I use to make char cloth. All right, you use char cloth for your flint and steel as a tinder source. And if you don't know what that is, look it up, or I'll cover that in other videos later. I don't have time right now to go into all that. I want to keep this relatively short as much as possible. So that's covered a lot. One other last thing I have in here is of something else very important. All right. In this bag at the bottom, I have a pack towel. Okay. Big old pack towel. Now, at any modern camping store, you can buy these fancy little pack towels, and they're great. They're great. However, this is a step up. This is a step better than those pack towels. This, again, is from a natural source. This is called a chamois. You've heard of chamois? Chamois is like it's an animal skin, all right? But you've heard them for people all the time washing cars and drying cars off, all right, for chamoises. But those chamoises made out of a natural animal skin, natural material. Sorry, not vegan. It holds water amazingly, just at a super amazing rate. And this little bitty pack towel is more than enough to dry off my entire body from bathing in a lake or being completely soaking wet. Um, so, and it lasts a long time if you take care of it. It's a great material. It's soft. It's good on your skin. Um, and it's just amazing. You always want to have a pack towel. Now, I would have more of these that I cut down into smaller pieces. This one is my pack towel, so I keep it a little bit larger as this is what I go to dry off. But you can cut this, get another one like this, and cut it into smaller pieces, and then you have just a wash rag for your soap when you bathe, like we were talking about earlier. Also, smaller pieces, you have this as just a drying towel, perfect drying towel for when you're cleaning your dishes in the wild. You need a way to rinse them, soap for them, a way to rinse them, and a drying towel. These make great drying towels as well. Fantastic for that. Also, I will cut another portion of this that I'll use for bathing, where I just use it on my private parts, right? And I label it and it just stays. So I know that's designated for my private parts. So I'm not scrubbing my face with the same thing I was scrubbing my rear with. You know what I'm saying? So, but you get the idea. You can make it into, you got a pack towel. You also got hand towels. You've got washcloths. You got drying towels. I mean, it's just amazing. And it's a natural material. It absorbs water really well. Well, if you take care of it, will last a very long time. I'm pretty sure, I would be willing to bet it lasts longer than these synthetic pack towels that you buy at the normal camping stores. Again, hardware over software. All right. I would rather deal with natural materials as much as I can. Okay. So that's just another thing you see. So this is, again, not meant to be perfect, but this is to give you a general idea. I've got a way to brush teeth. I got a way to floss. I got a way to shave. I got a way to soap and bathe. I've got chapstick, lotion. I've got deodorant. I've got ways to repair kit, even start fire, even fire tinder, even little first aid kit, manicure kits with fingernails and all that kind of stuff, grooming kits with razors and cutting tools and scissors and all that. So you get an idea. This is not perfect. It's not meant to be perfect, but it's meant to give you an idea. These are things that can last a very long time. And many of these things I can replace on my own if I have to. And as long as you take care of some items, you don't need to replace them. They last a very long, long time and gives you what you need. All right. So, very important. So you get the general idea. So that's an idea of my concept for a long-time hygiene kit. All right. For a field bushcraft expedient hygiene kit and things to consider. If you come up with good ideas for stuff too, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear them. I might do a review in the future if I can come up with better kits on some of the ideas from fans watching the show. And then we help each other where we get that knowledge out to everybody. This is just a start. And but I hope it gives you a good idea and some important things to consider. It doesn't weigh a whole lot, and it'll go a really long way. So that's it. Thanks for joining me at Braven Bushcraft. If you have any comments, concerns, you can email me at bravenbushcraft@yahoo.com. bravenbushcraft@yahoo.com. Please, if you enjoyed this, hit the like button, share and like the video. Please pass it on. Help the channel. It's brand new to grow, and spread it to your friends. And I hope you like it. If you have any suggestions or things you'd like to see, contact me and let me know. Some things I'm better at than others. But I've got a bunch of ideas for stuff I'm going to be trying to work on, and especially gear review of different way cool products that I've been stocking up on just for this show over the last year. So thank you everybody for joining. Hope to see you next time on the show. Let me see if I can switch this camera back now, and hopefully it doesn't mess up anything. I was having a heck of a time trying to get my audio. My audio wanted to work with one camera, but not the other. So it was kind of driving me crazy. It took me a long time to get a new camera just for this channel. But anyway, thank you. Take care. Hope you enjoyed it. God bless you and your family. And, try and take care of everybody. We won't make it without taking care of each other.